Hi there, this is Conscious Flow. I'm Leon. This channel is about helping you see your stuttering as a positive force, as a teacher rather than an enemy. Today I'd like to talk about how to become independent of your stuttering. It's perhaps more natural to think of stuttering in the sense of connection, like I want to be connected to whoever I speak with, and that requires me to speak fluently, because then it's all effortless and flowy and nice connection. And while that may sound nice and quite close by, it can be hard to achieve that. Like how do you become connected to the people you're speaking with? What I find more accessible is the notion of becoming independent of your stuttering, which yields kind of the same results. It's really aimed at reducing the suffering you have to endure because you stutter. So how do you become independent of your stuttering? There's two main components of this. There's the psychological component and there's the physiological component of it. So let's start with the psychological one, the mind. That's a bit perhaps easier to understand. So how do you become independent of basically your thoughts about stuttering? Thoughts have the nagging habit to try and convince you that they are really important. Like every thought thinks that it's super important and it's got some really groundbreaking thing to tell you, and that you really have to follow up on it. You really have to start an inner dialogue with this thought, even though it may be completely irrelevant, just a completely rubbish train of thought. And in my experience, just about every thought about stuttering, especially the judgy and negative ones, are just completely useless. And yet it is quite hard to tap out of them and to focus on something else instead, isn't it? Like we've all noticed that if we stutter, it's quite tempting to plan your speech, for example, to scan the words ahead for certain difficult sounds, for example, or to plan to avoid certain words that you know you're going to stutter on. Like this kind of mental activity has most likely happened to just about anyone who stutters. And it always sounds so tempting and so good. Like this time it's really gonna stop me from stuttering. This time it's gonna work, but every time it just turns out to be complete bullshit. So that's an important thing to realize, that just about every thought you have about stuttering is nothing but a waste of energy, a waste of time. With that in mind, it becomes a bit easier to what's the word? To resist being pulled into repetitive thought patterns. And the easiest way to do this, in my experience, is to simply focus on something else. Like it sounds trivial, but it's really the key to doing that. Just focus on something else while you have thoughts about stuttering. It's as simple as it is useful. One thing that's always there is the breath. So why not focus on the breath instead of your stuttering mind? That sounds really easy to do, and it totally is. But as it turns out, the mind will resist this, and it's gonna try and pull you back into its storytelling over and over and over again, and it's gonna find new and creative reasons for why you should enter a dialogue with it. So the plain and simple thing to do there is just to reground in the breath. And by doing this, you're gonna find that slowly you're gonna gain more independence of your stuttering mind. Because where awareness goes, energy flows. It's really as simple. If you engage with your stuttering mind in any way whatsoever, you're just gonna strengthen it. Which of course your mind is gonna deny, let's face it. But believe me on that one. This type of mental independence is also gonna give you a general sense of power over your mind. Next, let's look at how to become independent of your actual physical stuttering symptoms. And that can be a bit harder to grasp at first, because there's going to be a lot of things going on simultaneously in the body while you speak. There can be pushing, running, fighting, looking away, or facial contortions and all this kind of thing going on simultaneously, and it can become quite complex. So I think that makes it all the more important to have something very simple to focus on instead. And of course this can be different for everyone, but I find it very helpful to simply focus on the external world, like focus on what I see. And that's of course often the other person or a webcam, or perhaps sometimes I look away and I can look at stuff that's going on around me, because it's going to be really helpful to get the awareness away from the speech mechanisms and into the external world. And again, this is not going to work at first. It's going to take some time. Perhaps it's going to take a long time, like it did for me, but it's going to be slow and steady progress. So please just bear with it and see where it takes you. So that's enough talking for today. I'm gonna wrap it up, and I hope to see you next time on Conscious Flow. Bye guys.